world is becoming more unglued by the day. Local consequences are now showing up. We are seeing sky-high gas prices, higher food prices, shortages, and more. How should you respond? Go to redpills.tv/patriot. That's redpills.tv/patriot. And secure your long-term emergency food storage from My Patriot Supply. My Patriot Supply is by far the largest preparedness company in America. They're in stock and shipping quickly in unmarked boxes to your door. Their emergency food supplies last up to 25 years in storage. When you need it, it'll be there. Lunches, dinners, drinks, and snacks totaling over 2,000 calories a day. Get free shipping on any order over $99. Again, go to redpills.tv/patriot.
From the spaceship in the sky to the simulation in the mind, let's all embark on another journey of Conversations on the Fringe.
All right. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Josh, and that is Jason, our guest host for the night. This is Repill Project's Conversations on the Fringe. This is where we talk about the weird, the wacky, the unusual, those things that are outside of the normal conversation that tend to fill our mind in between the space of monotony of the day and the chaos of the day. And so I thought it'd be great to have Jason on tonight, to have a conversation, to talk, to see where we can take this conversation. Tonight we're going to be talking about, I guess, life's mysteries, anything we really want to talk about, as well as we have open lines. And so we can probably get into open lines here in a little bit, and the toll-free numbers are posted on whatever channel that you're watching on. If you go to the original post, the toll-free numbers are there. We'll give them out in a little bit. Please refrain from calling right now. We're going to have a conversation, and towards the mid-half of the show, we'll start taking some callers. But this is what we want. We want people to call in. You can either join in. We're going to hopefully you just join in with voice, so keep your video off if you do call in. Just join in with the voice, because you'll come in up at the top. And when you come in, just ask a question. We can kind of go back and forth, but let's just keep it short, because we're going to have a lot of people coming in with calls. And so much appreciated on that. And yeah, very cool. So Jay, what's up, man?
Josh, good to talk to you, buddy. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
You know, when you get back onto this show like this, and you you miss it, right?
Yeah.
And but the topic of today's, right? Like life's little mysteries. And I think one of the things I do like about technology is in these little short little videos you get is these little tidbits of information you get, and you're like, wait, how is this even possible that a civilization could do something like that when you know about evolution, right?
Yeah.
And so I find this subject really interesting, because the simplest thing can be very complex. Something you think is simple can be very complex, right? There's more to it. And I think as some of you guys may or may not know, but I have my own business, and as I work and hire other people, the thing that I come to realize is that people have lost the way to think. Literally, I sometimes I go through it and I think to myself, it's like the program had a delete button and people just forgot how to actually think for themselves and problem solve, you know? And it's something that to me just comes second nature. And I don't know if it does for you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're as handy as me, but like I'd like to think that I can fix anything. Like I could change the brakes on my truck, but I'm not a mechanic, right? Like I can disassemble a motor and put it back together, but I'm not a mechanic. You know what I mean?
I'm the same way. You have the ability to critically think. Not only critically think, but manifest that critical thinking into action that derives solution. And I think that's a lost quality, a lost trait in this world today. I think that a lot of kids are growing up with that foundation not built within their family structure, within their community. I think that a lot of people have a sense of entitlement that just because they have a brain and they can think on their own means that they're somehow entitled and better than everybody else. And I think that brings about this narcissistic laziness that we're seeing rampant within the liberal left. And I can't mention that word tonight, but that's one of my thoughts.
Yeah. So I do have to tell you this because I haven't talked to you in a while.
Yeah.
And so some of these things I'm like, man, I got to talk to Josh about. So if you guys don't know, I live near the Finger Lakes in Western New York, and I'm driving down this road. So there's East Lake Road and West Lake Road, right? I mean, every lake has it.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm on what is East Lake Road, and I'm way down towards the southern part of the lake. So the southern part of the lake is where the inlet is, and then the northern part is where the outlet is. So I'm down towards the outlet or the inlet, and I'm visiting a customer. I get paid and everything, and I'm driving back up. And just before I get to this boat launch, it was almost like, you ever seen gasoline from far away?
Yeah.
And it's got those like wavy chemicals. Melissa's with me. We're talking, and all of a sudden, it was like we went through this wave, and I look, and there's all these houses right before the boat launch. And I go, those have never been there? And she's like, yeah, what the fuck just happened? And for the first time in my life, I mean, you guys, I grew up around this lake. I've been on this lake. For the first time in my life, there were houses that were never there before. And like I said, it happened right after that, little thing. And I go, I swear to God, we just went through something. It was the strangest thing that I can think of as happened to me in the last 10 years. So
when you went through it, though, were the houses there?
Yes. That's like we went through it. Then the houses were there. And I'm driving. Now, mind you, I went down this road a half hour before this. There's no houses there. It's all state land. So it's not possible that there's houses there. Then when I come back through, there's freaking houses there. And I'm like, what the fuck happened? So she was like, why does it feel like we're not on the same road we just came down? And I'm like, that's exactly it. And it was almost, I don't know. It was weird, but somebody had said in the comments that Jello was real. And, we've talked about that Jello-ness, right? Mm-hmm. And it's almost like when you start to think about the Mandela effect, it's almost like we're going in and out. And we're playing these two parts of this. And that's kind of how I explained it to Melissa. First I had to explain the Mandela effect.
Right.
And it was like, we just went into or out of what used to be. Right? Because how else do you explain it?
So I love
something
this.
So simple.
Yeah. I love this because I have this theory on it.
Yeah.
And this theory is that our minds are directly connected to reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that we're continuously creating reverberations within the universe, right? Energy is neither created nor destroyed. So every action you do, every word you say, every thought you make, this is a ripple within the universe. And so the universe has to acquiesce in some sense. It has to bring you your desires, your thoughts, your actions, your influences, these types of things. This is what magic was all about. And so in actuality, we create our reality through through the thought structures that we create that derive action, and the influences of our action into the universe produce reactions, which give us our reality. And I had a thought a while back in a meditation, and it was this, that if you're trying to manifest a reality, if you're trying to manifest something in your life, you want something to happen, and you're doing everything right, and it's just not happening. Well, the universe has to work on the principle of the path of least resistance. Very similar to electricity, right? It's got to be able to find a resolution to that without interrupting everybody else's life path, without interrupting the movement of the planets and, insects and all these other things. So that's pretty precarious in the sense of how the universe has to go about that. Well, if we know that there's linear progression of time, and let's just say that time is linear in this example. And so the universe can manifest it down the road in time. So it can take 3 years, 5 years, 1 day, depending on how easy or simple it is for the universe. But also we have a multidimensional perspective, right? All those decisions in life that you didn't make, that maybe you made in alternative realities, they exist in the sense of probabilistic form as well. And so the universe, I don't think, differentiates between that. And so what I think happens is that the universe looks at it in the sense that, hey, man, I can't do it on this linear time frame, but I can do it on a dimensional level that's just to the side, and maybe it's, 0.1 millionth of a frequency to the right. And it deviates your life path just slightly, of which certain things in that reality are going to be just maybe a slightly different. And then as you're doing this over and over and over and over again throughout your life, maybe you were far right and now you're coming back to the left. Or maybe you're just so far right that your reality is completely transformed and changed. Do you know who Philip K. Dick is?
No.
So the Man in the High Castle, have you seen that on Amazon Prime?
No, it's good.
Oh, yeah, it's great. But it is a book series written, and it was about this man who wakes up in America where the Nazis had taken over. And so the Nazis won World War II, and it was still a fight for America. And he helped save America and then goes back to his timeline. Now, Philip K. Dick in 1977, he was a science fiction writer. He died in 1983. In 1977, he was at a seminar where he was one of the guest speakers to talk on the basis of what reality is. And he got up there in front of all these physicists, and he started talking, and he starts talking about his book, The Man in the High Castle. And he goes, one of the interesting things about my book, The Man in the High Castle, and this is something that I've never divulged publicly, but I'm going to divulge it to you people right now, is this wasn't a work of science fiction, but this is a biography of my life. He goes, that was me in that book that I wrote about. That actually quite literally happened to me. And when I came back from that alternate timeline, I wrote the book. Then he goes on to say, he goes, I believe if we start looking at the functionality of reality and everything in the sense of how reality unfolds and manifests, that we start seeing it very similar to these computer programs that are being developed now. This is 1977. And he goes, I've noticed this, and I have friends and clients who've noticed this as well. And this is one thing that we've noticed, and I started looking into this, and I'm going to make the assertion right now, this is Philip K. Dick saying this, that I believe we live in a simulation universe that is multiple various universes packed on top of each other, all happening at the same moment in time, but at different dimensional perspectives or frequencies, if you want to say that. And he goes, and what we do as these beings interacting in the simulation is we pass through these multiple dimensions in the unfoldment of our time. And sometimes we can wake up in completely different realities where, like, the Nazis won the war and took over the United States of America. And he goes, there's one thing that I want people in the future to start looking for that will prove this theory 100% correct. This is in 1977 he said this. And he goes, the people that I've talked to who have the same understanding that I do, that believe that this reality is a simulation all packed on top of each other and they're not from this universe, have said that at some point in their life, they notice small, subtle changes in their reality, which are subtle but dramatic to them, that are basically induce a level of trauma within them that they do not understand. And he goes, I guarantee you, as various different...
Like the Mandela?
There you go. He goes, in the future, as technology gets better and communication gets better, we're going to begin seeing stories come about of people talking about how their reality is different from the one that they're living in. And these will all be examples of exactly what I'm saying, that we live in this simulation universe. And now we got the Mandela effect.
Yeah. So we can talk about this too in video evidence, right? You ever seen the video evidence of the pterodactyl flying? It's there. It's 100% there. Do I think that that was CGI? No, I don't. I actually think that that is. But is it plausible that these parallel worlds can intermingle and touch? Right? I would say yes. Right? So when you, is it plausible that UFOs are the same thing? That they're able to dimensionally travel? Plausible, right? So yeah, it's fucking wild, isn't it?
Well, you know the new one, right?
The newest man. Well, I've saw a bunch of them lately, but what's this new one?
That people claim that the Sphinx's eyes have always been closed.
Yes, I just saw this one not too long ago. Now, do you remember them open or closed?
I remember them open.
Same here. But you know what? They're fucking closed.
So there's one, and this is an example of what Philip K. Dick was saying, okay? And what you said is that we kind of slide back and forth. This happened, everybody here remembers this. I talked about this over the summer last year. And I posted on the social Red Pill about this, how I woke up and the stars were in a different position and I was freaking out, okay? Now, I'm an avid astronomer. I look at the stars every night. I know where the stars rise in reference to my house. Right?
This is so fucked up. I can't wait to tell you about it. All right, go ahead.
So I was watching TikTok one day, and I'm watching Mandela videos. And they said, your whole life you've probably heard that Earth is on the outer rings of the galaxy. That it's on the outskirts of the galaxy. That we're so far out from the center of the galaxy. He goes, the newest Mandela effect says that we're not. Go look it up and check for yourself. And then he shows footage of Carl Sagan talking about how we're on the outer rim of the galaxy. Of Neil deGrasse Tyson saying that we're out on the Orion belt, the Orion arm of the galaxy. But then they go to the science textbooks. And I started looking this up myself. And all the science textbooks says that we're in the middle of the galaxy on the Sagittarius arm. And I go, no, absolutely not. No. And everything starts saying that we're in this. Dude, I checked it out myself. Everything starts saying that we're in the middle of the galaxy. We're on the Sagittarius arm. And then they start showing things where Neil deGrasse Tyson is now saying we're on the Sagittarius belt. And all these other people are saying we're on the Sagittarius belt, which is, the Sagittarius arm is like the middle of the galaxy. And that night, me and an old buddy, not a buddy anymore, we were watching the stars, and Orion arose. And
dude, this is what mine's about.
Yeah,
it's Orion.
Orion rose.
Orion.
In the wrong spot. And I was like, I took a picture of it. I posted on social Red Pill. And I'm like, what the F? Oh my goodness. So give everybody an idea. My house faces east to west. So my back of my house is due east.
So does mine.
Okay. So my neighbor's house right here, okay?
Yeah.
When Orion would start rising in the late summer, right? It would rise up over my neighbor's house, and it would do the transition over the sky on the ecliptic. No problem there, as does everything on the ecliptic.
How long you lived there?
6 years.
8 years?
Well, 8 years. Well, yeah, so about 7 years. All of a sudden, it arises in the southeast part of this house, and I'm like, no. And I was freaking out, man. I was like, no way. And so I go back and I start watching all these Mandelas, and they're all, and I start going out and researching the information, and it's all saying that we're in the Sagittarius arm of the Milky Way galaxy. And I'm like, no, dude, we are on the outskirts. Like I remember this clearly. I remember learning about this in college. I remember studying this. Like, no, this is impossible. And then, but then just recently, okay, I started looking it up again, that Mandela effect. It's gone. We're now back on the outer edge of the galaxy. We're now back in the Orion arm of the galaxy and the outer edge and the outer fringes of the galaxy. We're no longer on the Sagittarius arm. I can't find any reference to it.
So the same thing happened to me, because Orion is always in the same spot in my yard. And I've been here almost 7 almost 8 years, I think, maybe 7. And Orion is always in the same spot. So come summer or spring, summer, right? That placement shouldn't be any different. And it was. And I was like, what the F is going on? Orion's always over here, right? And instead it was in a different location. And I pulled out the Google or the Star app, and it pulls it up and it's like pulling me the other way. And I'm like, no, like as a kid, I wrote a 5th grade report on Orion. Like it was my favorite constellation. That's why I did Orion. And sure shit. So I know what Orion is. I know where it is, everything else. And I was like flabbergasted that it was not where I thought it should be. Right.
Yep.
Because man, I can't believe we had the same experience, and both our houses face east to west, which I never knew with you.
But there's definitely something happening, and I don't think it's related to CERN or anything like that. I think it's just how reality unfolds, and I think that we are not only traveling in time, forward in time, but we're also reality jumping. This is one theory that I had about death, is that when someone dies, they wake up in their bed at like age 30, and like a 90-year-old man dies. He dies, he goes through the light, all of a sudden he wakes up and he's having a nightmare and he's 30 years old again and his life just resets and starts off from that point again. We actually talked about that, about Dad. Remember when I told you I had that dream about Dad and that he was driving in a car and he went through the windshield and he woke up in his bed and he was like born again. And he's like, what? I just died in a car accident. And then you're like, dude, Dad actually happened to Dad. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's
plausible. I mean, just think about it. Everything is plausible. That special letter in the alphabet said the people have the power.
Yeah.
And maybe the power isn't, physical power, right? But it is a conscious power. And that if everybody is on the same page, that 360 million people don't want something to move forward, or the whole world as a whole doesn't want something to move forward, then therefore it will not. And maybe that's what that's meant, is that the power is in the people.
Well, I think we have
a
collective conscious reaction in this world. I think that we have a collective consciousness. I absolutely do. In a lot of mystery societies, the belief is and I don't want to offend anybody out here. This is not my teachings. This isn't what I study. But in a lot of the mystery schools, they teach that humanity has a collective conscious, and that when you die, that is heaven. That you don't go to like heaven or hell or anything. You go to back to the collective. You accumulate back with all the other human energies, the conscious energies, into the collective, and then the cycle repeats over and over again. And I tend to think that that's probably more real than a lot of other theories. And the reason I say that is because there's something that people are tapping into. There's something that people, some type of field is the best way to best way to label it. But there's some type of field that people can tap into, that people can go and experience, that people can touch, and it changes their life forever. I just happened to start watching a whole bunch of TikToks on near-death experiences. And, death is a topic for me that's like, it's not difficult to talk about, but it's difficult to think about your own death, right? It's a hard thing to do.
Especially if especially
it's inevitable.
Listen, very many people don't just fall asleep and never wake up. Most, like our dad passed away of a heart attack.
Yeah.
I think about that sometimes in the sense of the fear, the panic, all of these emotions that you must experience when something like this is tragically happening to your body. And then, you're shocked, you're dealing with shock and all of these things. And, most deaths, I think, are traumatic.
I agree.
In whether it's emotional trauma or a physical trauma, so I get what you're saying.
Well, you're going out the same way you came in.
Yeah.
I mean, think about childbirth. Isn't it not traumatic for the mother and the baby?
Yeah. How a woman, after having the first child, wants to have another is beyond me.
Well,
right?
Very
but it
true.
is something very, very beautiful. You know, it's having a child of my own was life changing for me, and there's something very special about it, and that's probably what has changed my position on that hot topic abortion lately. And so I at some point in my life I changed my position on it, and because it is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
If a child within the womb, which is supposed to be the most sacred, safest place for a child within the womb, doesn't bother you, that the murdering of that child, but school shootings bother you, and abortion doesn't, you've got issues. That's the way I see it.
Agreed.
Because a school is supposed to be a safe place for children. And if you think that is tragic, then you should think that all of those things are tragic too.
Right. I 100%
not to bring this up. This is a touchy subject. So
it is.
That's where
I'm going to digress back into the sanctitude of life and death. But the baby, the infant, goes through trauma being born. And so it only makes sense. And what I honestly think, and if you travel and venture into various esoteric, occult, or magical circles, in order to produce any type of magical spell, whether it's to influence your reality for your own benefit or whatever it might be, is that you have to induce a level of trauma. The trauma has to be induced. And typically what people do is they put themselves through various aspects of stress. And so this might be like, how about this? It's trauma can be identified in various different ways. So I know what people are thinking right now. One of the main reasons for ritualistic sacrifice was to basically proxy that trauma onto independent sources to utilize for the creation of the magic. Okay? We're not talking about that tonight. I don't want to talk about it. I want to get into the dark stuff. But basically, to produce any type of magical spell or influence in the world, there has to be a level of trauma. Now, think about this in the sense of a person who's never practiced magic before, a person who's just a regular human being that wants to be successful in life. He reads all the books, he goes out there, and he starts taking the appropriate action to get his life together. He gets discipline in his life, he gets discipline in his diet, his physical life, he starts working out, he's reading all these books, he's taking his extra money, he's investing it. After he gets off of work at 6 p.m., he's up till midnight, 1 in the morning, studying and building his ideas out. He starts his business, makes millions upon millions of dollars, right? And people will say, well, man, he was just lucky, or it was easy for him. No, he induced massive amounts of stress into his body, his mind, and his spirit to manifest that to happen. That's a trauma, right? And so there's multiple ways of trauma. One of these is, affirmations. And so you'll put yourself in a stressful position, like a yogic position, and you'll produce mantras. Another one is orgasmic. An orgasm is traumatic to your body. Your body is convulsing, right? Convulsing to produce things, okay? But you can utilize these energies to make these things happen. And so, it seems to be a principle within the universe that in order for creation to occur, there has to be a process of trauma endured. And death is no different. And so I think that even the people that pass away in their sleep, who's to say that they're not having a nightmare? Who's to say that they're not, that they don't have the trauma? I just never heard of anybody who witnessed somebody pass away in their sleep, right? Like, I've never heard that story before, but I'm starting to think that when we start looking at death, I look at death as a transition, a return back to the collective, a return back to spirit, a return back to wherever it is. It's not a long, cold sleep like a lot of people think it is. Life is a cycle. I use the example of the tree. Every winter, every fall, the leaves begin to die. Eventually, the leaves fall down. But let me ask you, do the leaves fall down completely green? If there's no windstorm or rainstorm or anything like that, the leaves stay on the tree for the most part until they are browned and devoid of life. Why? Because the tree pulls back in all the nutrients, all the moisture from the leaves into the tree. Then the leaves, the body, falls down to the ground, replenishes the soil, and next spring, the tree blossoms, new leaves, new branches, new buds, with the same life force that it brought in to preserve itself for the winter. Right?
Why do you think they call it spring?
That's right.
Everything's back to life.
Bouncing back to life, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think that when we start, and I think death is one of those interesting topics, but I've started looking at near-death experiences. And
yeah, these are good ones.
This is the interesting thing out there, because, and I don't mean to label or single people out, but I want everybody to understand this perspective. Is I've read a lot of different near-death experiences. I've seen a lot of videos of people explaining their near-death experiences. I've seen the ones where the guy goes through and it's a swirling tornado and he goes up there and there's God. There's Jesus. Jesus is guiding him through. The guy goes up there and there's angels, or there's grandma, or whoever it might be. We get all these occurrences, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then we get the guys that go out there and they meet the devil. They go to hell. They go through fire and brimstone. Now here's the problem. Is how many near-death experiences have you heard of people from other cultures? Have you heard the one of the guy going through and meeting Odin? Have you heard the one of the woman going through and meeting Buddha? Have you heard the one of, the guy going through and meeting Allah or Muhammad? Here's the thing, is it's cultural in its nature. And so I think that this has 2 points of variation. I think one is that our minds are more powerful than we could ever imagine. And a near-death experience could be just our minds producing one last illusion to soothe the pain of death as the consciousness falls away, but there's no evolutionary indication of that, as well as the non-locality aspect of near-death experiences completely negates that whole point. And then the second part is that death, whatever appears to you in these near-death experiences, is not the truth, but only the truth as you know it. And I think that's really important. I think that is incredibly important to know, because a person who dies and sees the devil or hell or Satan, right?
Uh-huh.
They typically came from a life of ill will, of bad, of negative, of drugs, of torture, of violence. And they know subconsciously that what they do is wrong. Therefore, at this moment of death, their brain manifests from its subconscious mind, hey, this is what was built as a model in your mind of what you believe the afterlife is back. And this person comes back, he finds Jesus, whatever. That's great. Then you get these people that go through and meet Jesus. Well, guess what? They're either Christians, or they're influenced in some way by Christian religions, or maybe they're just, Western society, right? But then you take the Asian who grew up in a Buddhist society. I don't hear too many accounts of them who never had any influence whatsoever of Jesus, all of a sudden saying, hey, I met Jesus, right? They always meet Buddha, or they meet Krishna, or they meet one of these figures. And so this tells me that whatever you interact with, whatever consciousness you're interacting with at that point of death, it does so in an intelligent and coherent manner to where it relates directly to the experience that you just had as a human being. And it's completely relative to what you believe is true.
I don't know. In some ways, yes. But like when I had my incident, I will tell you, like, think of like 1,000 pictures flapping like this. But it's from birth to that moment in your life. And they're just flapping by. I have no oxygen. I can't breathe. This is what's happening in my brain. Visually, I can see these images, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But my eyes are closed. So I'm seeing these images boom, 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 flapping through my eyes, and then I'm picked up. When I'm picked up, I grasp air and I come back to life. Okay? or I start to breathe again. So my brain has oxygen. So I get what you're saying there, but I'm trying to give you the look of what happened to me. You know, some of these near death experiences, a lot of these people are induced, meaning they're in surgeries and things like that, and then they have these experiences. So those people are, you know, drug induced, you know, with anesthesia, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I'd like to take a look at it where, you know, a kid drowned, you know, got pulled out. Those stories, I think, mean more to me than when somebody is under a high, what the hell, sedation. You know what I mean?
Sedation. Well, but here's the one occurrence with all the people under sedation is they die.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Is that at some point under the sedation they die? They are clinically dead. So I mean, we gotta add that in there that they are dead when that happens.
Oh yeah. You know, it's pretty wild we're talking about this because I just saw one where a little woman was in surgery and she died, and then they took her away, and she was up, and she met with, you know, like you said, she met with people, and they were like, listen, your job's not done, and they sent her back, and for about 10 minutes she hovered above her body and watched the surgery and listened to all the people talking. And then she went and entered her body again, came out of the surgery, and she was like, yeah, I heard you guys talking about this. And they're like, you didn't hear us talking about that. And she was repeating the conversation. They realized that she really did. You know, it's just one of those freaky stories. But interestingly enough, so I guess my point to you was about the images is that, to me, that's what's happening to the brain, right? And so when we look at these realities, and, you know, you hear people say, well, could we be living in a simulation? What happens to a hard drive when you shut it down? Or what happens to a computer when you shut it down, right? Closes all programs. Does that program your life? And that's what I was seeing, was the programs getting closed. And when I grasped oxygen, I rebooted. I mean, that's, like I said, something so simple.
Yeah. When did you when did this happen to you?
Maybe a year before Dad passed away. And yeah, I was partying, and I'll tell you the story. I don't give a shit. So I was partying, we were drinking and everything. I was pretty fucked up, and we went back to somebody's camper because this happened at the campgrounds. Melissa was outside on the deck, and we were doing bongs, and I used to smoke really heavy, and I, you know, did the bong, and I was like that, you know, not trying to let the smoke out, and I exasperated all the oxygen in my lungs, and all of a sudden I didn't fall like this. I just squatted, and when I squatted, the way my head was cut off all the oxygen to my lungs, and so everybody's like, you know, they're like, what the fuck? I dropped everything that I had. I held my beer, and I was just leaning up against the wall, but I couldn't breathe. And somebody opened the door and yelled for Melissa after looking at me for like 45 seconds, not breathing. And Melissa came in and grabbed me and pulled me up. And when she pulled me up, she brought my head up. And I was like, oh, yeah.
Oh, man. You know, I had an experience. I was at a clam bake, and I had never eaten clams before. And I don't have a shellfish allergy. And everybody had their bag of clams, and I'm just kind of a friend at the party. And my buddy's like, you want one, man? I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll try one. I've never had one before. And I ate one. And I ate one. I'm like, yeah, not for me, right? And so we're playing some hacky sack, and we just smoked some weed. And pretty good weed back in the day. And I'm playing some hacky sack, and I start zoning out. And you know how you zone out, and all of a sudden everything's going like this? This is not marijuana. Everything's going boom, 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 boom.
Like
well,
whip it.
Yeah, well, everything's like flying by, right? And I'm like, I looked at everybody. I'm like, man, I feel like I'm tripping. And then everything slowed down. It was like, man, or like everybody was just in slow motion, and all that whooshing started going like this, started twirling. And everything just started, it just got faster and faster and faster. And it felt as if I was looking upward. And everything was like a kaleidoscope twirling, and it came down, and like it just like went into my head. And I remember waking up. I was on the ground. By this time, I was on the ground, and I puked. Bloop.
Oh.
And I puked, and all of a sudden, just everything went away. And I was like, "Oh my god!" They're like, "You okay, man?" I'm like, "I guess I can't eat clams." Like, so I have not eaten clams or oysters ever since then.
Don't get any on 4th of July, huh?
Yeah, well, no, they messed me up, man. They messed me up. But
I just had some over Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, but they screwed me up hardcore. And I don't know if it's pretty odd to find the one bad clam out of thousands of them at a clam bake, you know? Like, that makes no sense. And so I assumed it was just the clams in general, how they affect me. And but that's one thing that I looked at, because I'd had, by that time I was pretty experienced psychonaut, right? I had tripped multiple times. I did enough drugs to where I knew the difference. And this thing affected my perception of time. It affected my perception of space. And even when I was passed out on the ground, collapsed, I still felt as if I was standing up and everything was spinning around me, and the spinning was speeding up faster and faster and faster. And then the interesting thing is it all spun into my head. Boom. And it was like I got hit. And when it got hit is when I threw up.
That's wild.
Yeah. But I mean, that's
Damn, good conversation today.
Yeah,
man.
well,
look at that shit. Yeah.
But as for, like, you know, I've had past life experiences in the sense of hypnosis, but I've never had a near-death experience, and I don't want to have it. It's not something I'm asking for.
Well, you almost had one when you were a kid.
I probably did. I probably had a few of them. I just don't remember them.
Yeah. You know, I don't know if you do remember this, but
there's the pertussis vaccine. I went in anaphylactic shock. Then there was the SIDS, or the stuck epiglottis. And then there was
for a while there, we thought John and I actually thought Mama might have been like trying to take you out. I'm just kidding. You know, Mom, if you're listening, I'm kidding. But no, that was pretty scary. You know, like you know what I noticed? I will talk about that. But that was like scary. You know, as being your older brother and have this is your littlest brother. You know, I've already had another brother, right? Nothing like this happened to him. And then you're born and you have these issues. It was scary. I remember one night it went off, the alarm, because you used to go to bed and you'd have all these things all over you. Did you know that? No, yeah, you'd have to, Mom or Dad would have to put all these things all over your chest. And if you stopped breathing, you were hooked up to a monitor and the monitor would go off, and then they would come in and they'd have to wake you up. And it went off one night. It was the scariest thing, man, because you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know until your mom or dad come down and they're like, everything's okay, or they're making a phone call. And it was scary shit, And that's why I find it interesting that your perception of our relationship when you were younger was different than my perception, Like I would have said that you were probably the brother I was closest to, but you were like, Jay and I were really distant when he was older. And I was, but I didn't look at it that way.
If I was the one you're closest to, man, then you have a shitty relationship with your... No, I'm joking.
We probably would have fought a lot.
Well, I think that a lot of it had to do with the age gap.
Yeah.
But also it had to do with Jeremy. It had to do with our middle brother, who was this intermediary between us, who had massive problems in life.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, like, I don't remember much. I remember,
kid?
I don't really remember anything.
Dude. Surprisingly, I remember a lot of things. I do remember some things about you because they were so impressionable, because you did some crazy shit, man. I won't tell anybody on this show. You did some crazy shit. And, man... makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you, you did some things that made me like,
Donor lady.
That kid's got balls.
Yeah.
Kid's got balls. You would have,
Well,
you did pretty much done anything we told you to.
you know, I was actually I was watching a video the other day, and it was talking about post traumatic stress, and it was talking about people who endured trauma early in their life and certain characteristics they would have as an adult. And I'm like, shit. And I'm sitting there going, what did they do to me? Like, because I don't remember my childhood. It's not that I don't want to. I don't know what it is, the mental block, right? But I think there's a lot of probably trauma that I had, whether it was from the way my brothers treated me, the way the family structure was run, or whatever. I don't know. You know, turn the drugs, and obviously that's, you know, people look at that as glamorization. It's not. It's trauma. You know, you're producing trauma to a growing and developing body, and you know, we're lucky that we made it out, you know, Absolutely. Sane and with our biochemistry still balanced. And so, yeah, right. I mean,
yeah.
So I mean, I look at it like, man, I'm blessed.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story. Like when you say like, I'm going to tell you a story, and then you tell me if you have any fears from this. So when you were a kid, this is before you could walk. So let's just say 8, 9, maybe a year old, right?
Mm-hmm.
And diapers, you're definitely in diapers, but you could walk. Okay. And we used to have the circular thing, and in the middle of it was a seat. And then the whole bottom part of the circle were wheels. And then the upper part of it was a tray, and they had like, you know, sliding things, shit what little kids would play with, right? And so remember how you had, remember how you had the living room was up here, and then you had to step down to the kitchen.
Step down.
We pushed the table. Yep, we'd push the table over against the freezer and the refrigerator, and we'd take you from the fireplace area, and we'd whip you as fast as we could, and you would go flying in the air over that 7-inch step, boom, land onto the kitchen floor, and you'd be like, let's do it again. We could do that for hours, bro. So do you have any fears of, like, you know, that kind of stuff?
Nope, not at all.
Perfect. See, we made you an adrenaline junkie then.
Definitely not an adrenaline junkie, but I am in certain instances, right? I can tell you I definitely crave it. I crave adrenaline, but I remember the walker. I remember it was a white, it was blue and white, and I remember the thing that you're actually talking about. And I can walk myself through that house right now in my mind. I can see the entire house, exactly every part of it. The brownish, light tannish carpet that was on the floor. Then we had, what was the blue carpet? Wasn't it like a light blue carpet in those rooms that we were just talking about?
Dude, you know you can go to Zillow, and that house was for sale not too long ago.
Oh yeah.
And you can walk through the pictures. And remember the cabinet? So remember the bathroom? And then remember John's bedroom up by the front of the house near the front door? Yeah. Remember that wood shelf?
Yeah, the old library shelf.
That's still fucking there.
Oh, that's awesome.
It is. It really is. I really wanted to. I wish I had the money at the time, because I would have bought that house. Yeah. Not for myself, but to probably made it a rental.
I got 2 time capsules in the backyard. It's going to be really awkward in a few years when I go back there and start digging where the shed used to be. I got some G.I. Joes buried back there, man.
There's some, you know, there's another thing, like playing with toys. Like, you know, like I wanted to say that we were very into like playing with G.I. Joes and things like that. You know, I don't know. Like I said, cell phones,
Tonka trucks.
The internet. Yeah, fucking Tonka trucks and G.I. Joes and
we had
Star Wars
dirt piles in the back in a sandbox that we'd go out there and Tonka trunk it. Oh, dude. We had the little crane, freaking all that stuff. You'd set up bases. You'd have G.I. Joe wars.
Mm-hmm.
You remember, like all the kids from Maple Street would come over, and there'd be like a group over there, at least me and Jeremy. Yeah. And then you'd have G.I. Joe wars.
Yeah. Shoot dirt bombs.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember when you broke the patio door?
No.
Brand new fucking patio door. They had just put it in. You guys were doing the G.I. Joe dirt bombs. So you're like launching a bomb into somebody's camp. Mm-hmm. And one of you guys launched a rock. I think it was Jeremy. Launched a rock too far, and it hit the patio door.
Of course it was Jeremy.
Right? It was like late fall. You know, no snow yet, but it was late fall. Fucking funny, man. I remember a lot from our childhood.
But you know,
maybe I'm supposed to.
Right?
You know?
Yeah. No. And I think it's good too, because those memories are the points that guide you through life. And I mean, we were just talking about death and we were talking about birth. Now we're talking about life. This is the mysteries of life. And I mean, for everybody out there, I've had a hard time in my life remembering a lot of my childhood. Doesn't mean it was good or bad. I really don't know. I remember, though, and this is what I'll tell everybody. I remember two specific moments from my childhood. I remember one day walking home. You remember how bells used to be over there, and Mom would walk behind the houses, behind the old train,
the old railroad tracks.
Yeah, the old railroad tracks to the house. And I was walking with Mom, and she was carrying groceries. And I said, "Carry me. My legs are tired." And she goes, "Oh, no, honey. I'm not carrying you anymore. You're 5 years old. You're a big boy. You start school in a few days." And I remember, I'm like, what? I mean, I don't get to stay home with Mom anymore, and I just started bawling. I was pissed. And then I remember my first day of kindergarten, all right? I had Miss Guthrie, as we all did.
Yeah.
And Mom dropped me off and introduced me to Miss Guthrie, and I kind of looked back like, no. And I was the kid that stomped, yelled, screamed at that door, and Mom left, and I was like, no, I want my mommy. And Miss Guthrie just went over there, grabs you by the frickin' arm, drags you and says, "You're going to like this. Get your butt in here." And throws you in the middle with all the other kids. And 10 minutes later, you're completely fine. You forget about your mother and school's on. So that's two moments that I remember when I was 5. And then what I remember is about 10 years of age. And it was as if like a light bulb went off in my head. And this is where I've gathered these theories of coming into being. But it was almost as if like one day I woke up and I was like, oh my God, like I'm conscious. Like I have a personality. I have an image. I am a person. I'm a being. I'm an individual.
So
right?
Yeah. Keep going.
And I come into this, and this is when I start realizing that I need to develop relationships in life. I need to talk to people. I need to have friends. I need to go out there and interact with people. I need to learn things. I need to take things seriously, right? I started having responsibility. I was doing martial arts, right? But like, I mean, before this, it's just kind of like shoot from your hip type of life, right? I'm a kid. My parents take care of everything in my life. I don't have any responsibility or discipline. I don't need it. I don't care. And then one day it just all clicked. And I was about 10 years of age. And I remember I've been conscious since that moment, like consciously aware of things. This is where my memories really start, is around this point in time. I can sit here and I can start thinking, and it's interesting because I just realized now is the separation between this is when I moved from State Street to Center Street. Is that right when I moved into Center Street is when all of these memories and all of this stuff started happening. And, you start interacting with other kids, you start making friends, you start having life events. You get your first kiss, you get your first feel, you get all these things, right? And I have memories of all that. Like everything from like 10 years of age to current day, I could probably sit down and talk for years about all the experiences that I've had. I can sit here and go through it chronologically, kind of like a photographic memory. I can see it all, I can feel it all. I can smell the air, the type of temperature it was that day. Just very, very acute sense of those memories. But before that, it's very, very vague. I do have one memory though. This one just came to me, and I think it was Jeremy's room. I don't remember if you were there, but Jeremy was having a sleepover. It was Mike Leach, Jeremy, I think Chris Buckley, and they're all gonna run away from home. And they all had their bags packed, and they had sticks, and they had the sheets tied up with the sticks, and they had their clothes in there. And they're all going to run away from home. I remember one night where they had a sleepover, and they let me sleep with them on the floor in the living room. And I forgot who it was that punched Don Pete in the stomach. But he started hyperventilating, and they had to call his parents. They almost had to call the ambulance. And he had to leave. I remember that. But, yeah, I mean, it's interesting to think about life, man.
Yeah, as a kid, and it's interesting you said that because when I was a younger child, I didn't like my name. I would repeatedly tell Mom that my name was not Jason. My name was Michael. And I hated the name Jason. I hated my middle name even more. People would be like, "What's your middle name?" I wouldn't tell anybody that. Now I don't care. But So it's interesting that you said that, because at some point in my life, I came to terms with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, I am Jason Reed. That is who I am. And it's almost like you're, it's almost like you're coming from your regression to who you're supposed to be in that moment, right? And so I think, interestingly enough, as we talk about this, I was watching these videos the other day about people that said, like, what is the most interesting thing that you've had happen to you as a parent? And like 4 or 5 of them were about kids. Like one kid said, she said, I was dancing with my 5-year-old and he said, it's been a long time since you and I danced together. And the last person that she danced with was her grandfather, who's passed away. Okay. So things like this, where you're hearing these stories of these children that have talking about past lives, right? Now, so when you come through, you're talking about it. So I almost think that if reincarnation was real, is that maybe we're experiencing or rejecting who we are today because of who we were before we were here, right?
Yeah.
And I truly think that that's what I struggled with. I struggled with being somebody named Michael. And I have never gone through the past life regression like you have.
You should.
But maybe I should. Especially because we have it documented that I literally said, what would you do? She was like, your name was Michael something. I'd be like, what the fuck?
Well, but it could also come out as your subconscious mind, right? It could just come out as a reminiscent memory of your subconscious mind. But, on that point is, I've talked about this before, is that if the existence of the soul is real, which I absolutely know and believe, but if science one day proves it, what you'll find out is that the soul enters the body through progressive states. Is that the baby doesn't have the full soul in there. This is why when the baby's born, it's in this alpha and delta state of brain, and it's very receptive to the subconscious. It's still learning, it's still adapting up until about the age of 8. And I believe it's the age of 8, 7 and 8, where the soul starts entering the body more and more, because the body's going through these massive growth spurts. This is what kicks in the hormone growth, and I think it's around that time of 10 to 13 that people start having enough of that spirit inside the body to where the soul or the spirit's identity starts to shine through. And I look at it as if like filling up a glass, right? Is like, think about the glass full is the spirit in the body. Thank you, honey. Appreciate it. Is think about the glass full is the spirit in the body. Is that when the baby's born, the glass is really small, and there's a very, very little amount of water in it. And as the baby grows, the water gets more and more. That's directly proportional to the amount of mass that the body has. And at some point in time, it hits this critical threshold to where the soul begins to see through the eyes of the body, or comes into being. And I think for some kids, this can happen at like 5. And maybe this is one of the reasons why the old reminiscent soul, who is still attached to the spirit world or the astral world, has these memories of that last life, and then why that little kid would say something like that, right? But then when you come into being, you're less in that astral world, less attached to those old memories of old lives or your past life, and you're now attached to this life and this body, and all that starts to fade away. And I call it coming into being. Yeah. And I think this is one of the reasons why many indigenous cultures, many various different religions and theologies and belief systems have ceremonies based upon coming into being or coming into adulthood. And this coming into adulthood is when the spirit latches fully into the body and the personality of the spirit begins to shine through.
One of the most interesting ones I heard is the small child looked up. He was like 5, and he looked up at his mommy and he said, "Mommy, will I live forever with you? Because the last time I didn't get a chance to be born with you." And she admitted that she had an abortion at like 17. Yeah, that one, like when you hear shit like that, man, like I don't know, that the whole thing gets you.
It's funny you said that. I've heard 5 stories in my life exactly the same, of mothers who had abortions first trimester, second trimester abortions, and they have their kids, and their kids will look at them and say, "Mommy, what were you going to name me before?" Mother's like, "What are you talking about? Name me before?" Well, before, when I was in your belly and you decided to take and you decided to put me back.
Mm-hmm.
And the mother's like, "What?" And Mom, I'm glad you decided to have me this time. The last time I had to turn around and go home. Like, I've heard this many times. And so, and that's another thing for people to contemplate in the sense of abortion, is this stuff is real. Like, there is a spiritual nature to life. There's a dualistic principle playing out here, and that there is this other place that we go, and whatever it is, whether it's a creation of your own beliefs in your own mind, maybe the only thing that exists is you and your reality, and your reality is your universe, and it is whatever you want it to be. And when you die, what was the movie? What Dreams May Come, with Robin Williams? You remember this movie?
Yeah, oh yeah. Where he's in purgatory.
Right. But his death, okay, where he was in purgatory was within his own mind. Did you get, I don't think a lot of people grasp this about it, is that in his death, he was within his own mind, within his own created hell, within his own mind. Okay? The world that he existed in when he died was his. It was his creation. And that the kids and everybody that were saving him, that was him inside of his own mind saving himself.
He was saving his wife.
His wife. Sorry. Yes, his wife.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, that's a tough movie. I remember the first time I watched it, I was like, boy, I got to watch that again.
He was such a great actor, man.
He really was. Like, did you ever see, I'll tell you a movie that fucked me up as a kid. The World According to Garp. Have you ever seen that movie?
I've heard of it.
All right. So there's a lot of good actors in this. John Lithgow is in it. And in the movie, Lithgow is actually a tranny, if you will. So Lithgow was playing a woman who had transitioned. And I forget what he's doing. I think he's trying to get his degree and his life together, and his wife is a professor. And at some point, it's like they're talking about all of the things that are happening in his life, and she cheats on him. And do you want me to tell you what happens? All right. So, spoiler alert, if you don't want to hear about The World According to Garp, don't listen. So he catches her cheating, and she's cheating with a college student, and she's breaking up with a college student, and he gets her to suck his dick one last time. And Robin Williams is coming home with his kids in his Volkswagen Bug, and he was always played this game where he'd fly into the driveway and turn off the lights before he pulled into the driveway. It was, and he stopped right before the garage. So he comes whipping home, and that college student's car is there, and she's giving him a blowjob. And Robin Williams comes in, turns the lights off, and rear ends the car, and she bites off his dick. And I think she breaks her jaw and shit, and everything's just fucked up after this, right? Because she was supposed to not be cheating on him. And I remember the negative feelings that I had towards relationships, because I literally had felt his pain from the movie, like how she made him feel, right? And man, I'll never forget that. That movie like messed me up in my perception.
How was
of
Garp
women.
conceived?
I think he was a mistake, no less, too. I think he was like an accident, like his mom was promiscuous and had a relationship, and he was born. And so, so it's interesting enough, like how that, but I'm telling you, man, like I always felt insecure that women would cheat on me. You know what I mean?
Right.
And yeah. Because usually the movies are usually about the men cheating on the women, right?
Right.
I don't know. It definitely had a play on me. But then he had that movie too, Patch Adams.
Yep.
Another instrumental, emotional movie, right? So, yeah, Robin Williams, and that's the great thing about
Goodwill Hunting.
Goodwill Hunting.
You have Jack was a good one. You have I'm going through his toys.
Oh yeah,
Toys. Oh my God!
What a fucking movie that was, right?
Hook.
Yeah.
Have you heard the dark side of Hook?
That about Captain Hook.
About it all. The dark story of what it really is.
That Peter Pan is actually a pedophile.
That Peter Pan is actually a pedophile, and he's trying to keep the children forever, and that Hook and his buddy there are children that actually got out and survived and grew up, and are trying to actually save the kids from the pedophile.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's dark.
Yeah. Dead Poets Society.
Mm-hmm.
Good Morning Vietnam.
Yeah.
Oh man, he was.
Morning Vietnam.
Oh, he was.
So
amazing.
I gotta tell you. So we go out. Melissa and I go out every Friday night. We go out to eat dinner at the same place, and so we've gotten. You observe things especially when you go to a place regularly. Mm-hmm. You make observations, and in particular, there's this one waitress, and she always says these things like where she's putting her foot in the mouth. Okay, So like she'll always come up after she drops the food off, and she'll circle back and she'll go, "How's your all first bite?" Every time she says it. Every fucking time she says it. And so, like every waitress there, she has her regulars. And so there's this doctor and his wife and his little girl that come in there and tonight. And so she's like, "How is everything, you guys?" She's giving the check and shit. She's like, "Are you guys going to the air show this weekend?" And they're like, "No." And then she's like, and she kind of just like spins around and walks into the kitchen. Like just breaks off the conversation and walks into the kitchen. And Melissa and I were laughing at it. And I was like, that part in Goodwill Hunting where Ben Affleck's brother is in the car or something and he's like, "I swallowed a bug." And then he puts his head down. Do you know that part I'm talking about?
I think so.
So basically like it's almost like he's putting his foot in his mouth. So he says something like, "I swallowed a bug."
Gotcha.
And then he kind of like walks away, right? Because it's an uncomfortable thing. So whenever I see that moment in time with somebody that has that weird interaction, I think of that scene.
Okay.
I swallowed the bug. So to me, it's so fucking funny. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but like I said, it's these little things in life. Life is fantastic, and it is what you make of it. You're gonna have your ups and your downs.
One thing I've always wanted to do with this show is I always wanted to get like Dr. Michio Kaku or Brian Greene, these physicists on this show. And today I came across Brian Greene, who, if people don't know Brian Greene, he's a British physicist, probably one of the highest IQs on the planet. He is probably the foremost expert on Einsteinian theory, special and general relativity. He's an absolute genius, but he's 100% a mechanistic atheist. And he did this TikTok, and it was actually really profound. Although if he said this to me, I probably would have red pilled him. But he says, "What else more do you want?" He goes, "The universe derives from this instance of chaos. Things begin to organize and come together. And through spontaneity and random interaction, the molecules that are in your body formed through billions upon billions of years of evolution of suns birthing and dying and exploding. And then all that stuff happening over and over again. And then it's all going to go back to that point of chaos. It's all going to break apart. And you have this consciousness for this very, very smidgen of time in between this chaos within the universe. What more do you want? You're experiencing the miracle that the universe created." And so it's kind of beautiful to think about it like that we're experiencing this miracle of life within the universe, this consciousness to understand ourselves and understand, being in nature and in the stars and all these things. It truly is a beautiful thing. But I didn't like how he said that it was random and spontaneous, because he's absolutely wrong there. And as a physicist, he says that the configuration of the universe is 100% completely random, and that the molecules in your body and your DNA all formulated through random occurrences of interactions. And that's just not true. That's scientifically proven not true. And the reason we know this is because the universe actually follows a set pattern of unfoldment. And this pattern is derived through specific mathematics that are evolved within sacred geometry, also known as phi, the golden mean, and that the universe orchestrates its design patterns in an architecture based upon the golden mean, the phi ratio. And so it's not spontaneous and random, like he says. And it's just people like that have such a high level of intelligence that they're so ignorant to the simple things that are right in front of them. And so that's one dude I'd absolutely love to have a conversation with. And I would test him with the ultimate paradox. I would definitely give him the ultimate paradox. People like that I'd love to talk to about the ultimate paradox. I forgot who I did it to. We did it in an after chat the other night. And I explained everything, and people were like, holy shit, that was mind-blowing. And when you use logic and rationalism to try to understand your existence and your reality, you can have it make sense. It becomes self-evident to what it truly is. At the end of the day, it's beautiful. At least in my opinion.
It is. The smallest thing can be an incredible mystery, though.
That's right.
Yeah. Remember that Saturday Night Live that used to be the Jack Hanley things that make you go, Do you remember that?
Deep Thoughts with Jack Hanley.
Yes. Deep Thoughts with Jack Hanley. Where does grass seed come from?
It was back in the days when that stuff was actually funny, though.
It's just still funny.
Remember Pat?
Well, oh gosh, I do remember Pat.
Right.
But you know what?
But you couldn't do that now.
Oh.
Everybody's a fucking Pat.
But Josh, were they conditioning you?
Right? You got to look at that. Were they conditioning you?
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know.
Deep Thoughts. Jack Handy. Is Pat a boy or a girl?
Oh,
yeah, I don't
do you even need to ask? Isn't it obvious?
That's hilarious.
I love that. Oh, man. Pat. Yep.
Oh, that's funny stuff.
I have no idea to this day what Pat was.
I would have to say Pat was a girl.
Me too.
Because she was played by a girl, but yeah.
But I mean, that was the day. Those are the days that they actually had good writers, that they had good cast, and in that, yeah, they might have been grooming us, but at least it was funny as hell. I mean,
yeah.
I occasionally come across like Richard Pryor stuff. Like, you know how racist they were?
The Toy. Did you ever see the movie The Toy?
Yeah.
You remember? I used to love Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor, bar none, was just incredible. But Blazing Saddles is incredibly racist, right?
Yeah. Well, there's this one Saturday Night Live skit with Richard Pryor, and it's
Chevy Chase.
Mm-hmm. And he goes, "I'm going to say a word, and I want you to give me your first reaction."
He goes,
he goes, porch, and he's a cracker, like, right? And they just keep on going back, but it was comedic. It was funny. It was funny, bringing attention to serious things, but knowing that two adults could be in the same room and completely have a good time with each other over it, because they didn't think of those things about themselves towards those people.
Right, exactly. They themselves were only playing a part.
Did you ever see the Richard Pryor movie Moving? With Dana Carvey in it?
Yep.
And they're moving, and they go to look at a house, and every room they go into, oh my God, look at that door. That door's amazing. Up, don't get too in love with that door. We're taking it with us. And they go to look at those windows. Oh my God, are those new? Yep. But don't get too attached. We're taking them with us. At the end of the movie, Dana Carvey pulls in the psychopath, schizophrenic murderer with her BMWs all beat up, and it coasts in the driveway. And they get to the house, and there's no windows, no doors, no cabinets. The guy took it all with him.
My favorite Pryor movie is probably Brewster's Millions.
Oh, that's a good one.
Remember
John
Brewster
Candy?
Millions? I think Candy is in it, but Brewster basically inherits all that money, but he has to spend so much money to appreciate all of the money.
Right.
You remember that?
Yep.
And I might have talked about this before because of so he basically runs for like governor, and he runs on the none of the above campaign.
Right. None of the above. Vote none of the above.
Vote none of the above. Yeah. Yep. And he has that
Montgomery Brewster and Spike Nolan.
Yeah, and he was a pitcher, so that was even cooler,
Dude, yeah. But that was a different time.
Really was.
And look at the transgression of time from that point, right? Is I remember the 80s. I don't remember much of my childhood. I remember the 80s. I remember the feeling. I remember it was probably the summer of 88 or 89, State Street, and I went out in the back deck. And it had to be earlier than that because it was before the deck was built. It was that brown wooden step down from the sliding door, right? And I remember going out there, and Dad was working on something in the backyard, and the radio was on. And it was Boston, More Than a Feeling, was playing, and it was pristine blue skies. It was the upstate New York summers, right? June, July. And I remember the breeze, the warm breeze that came in. And I remember just feeling how free and peaceful it was. I remember just no cares in the world.
Right.
And I think that's how a lot of people felt growing up in the 80s. Is like, we're the number one nation in the world. We got good education systems. Our families are making good money. The economy's doing all right. Things are good. And I think that also a part of that is the parents sheltered us a lot from the problems in the family. And I think that was a natural thing that derived out of the Great Depression and so forth, because parents never really brought the kids into adult matters, and there was no reason to. And you could keep that from them and make the kids have the appearance that life is hunky-dory and safe because they're going to grow up better. And then I remember the 90s. And the 90s was like, it's the 60s turned upside down, but it was a free-for-all. It was kind of just like live free, man. Just live free. This is a great place. It's full of mystery, but it's still a great place. And then progressively, things in the 2000s got worse and worse and worse, to the point where I won't let my kid go to the park by themselves. I won't even let them two go together unless there's someone else with them, and they need 3 people to go to the park. Like, they can't go be kids. They can't go out and do things because there's the potential for dumb people and crazy people to do dumb and crazy things.
Yeah.
This world's changed, man.
That's changed. And it's sad, honestly. Like what you were just talking about, man. All I heard was Dad go, Jason, go give me another beer. And I'd run into the house, right? Run into the house. You'd hop up onto the deck, or you'd hop onto that step, slide the door open. You'd walk into that room with a brick wall on it, turn right, go to the kitchen. I take that. Dad used to drink genuine, clear bottle, genuine draft Miller High Life. I pop that bitch off and go on that neck. I go, and then I'd run it out to Dad every time I did that. I'm telling you, I used to love that beer. I still drink it once in a while, but when I do it makes me think of those times. And like you said, you didn't have. Could you just imagine living that time right now? Like, you were worry-free. Even if we had money problems or, we weren't rich. Dad had 4 boys, ate him out of house and home. But did you know you were poor? Did you ever feel like,
No,
man,
not at
I
all.
don't have enough in life? If anything, I think when you became a teenager in the house, you lacked love in a sense, right? Because you were coming into manhood, right? It's the I think it's the maternal thing of being able to start to shoo the kids out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
Too bad it took mom like another 10 years for that to work for me.
She had the irony in the end on that one.
Yeah, right. But it's interesting how that all works, and it's I miss those times. Like, interesting enough, you said Boston, more than a feeling.
Yeah.
Right. Think about that. More than a feeling. You can hear that song.
Yeah. I can hear the radio when I walk out. I can hear it on the radio. I can feel the warm breeze on my arms. I'm sitting down on the step and I'm watching Dad, and I'm gazing at the blue skies. And just because the field behind the house was just field to the Specialized right there, and I just remember how beautiful it was. I just how much of a loving, free feeling it was. And it's like my only memory of the 80s. I remember parties. I remember going through. I remember John used to have parties, and I'd go through all the red cups, and I'd start drinking all the leftover beer in all the red cups. I had to be 8 or 9, and I'd get hammered.
Oh God, that's disgusting. Thinking about all this.
Yeah, me and Vinny would go around drinking all the beer.
Yeah.
They had a few of them would actually give us beers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To circle back, I saw an interesting thing the other day about, was it Da Vinci that painted the 16th chapter?
Yeah. No, it was Michelangelo.
Michelangelo. So you have the God's finger here, and I assume it's Adam's finger here like this. And they were showing a picture of it, of how it's a certain part of the brain. So they put an image of the brain over God. And they talked about that portion of the brain and how monumental it is in brain development, right?
Yeah.
And
the frontal lobe.
More or less, yeah. But more or less is that part of the brain, or was Michelangelo? The questions they were asking was Michelangelo trying to tell you that God has to be here, right? And if that's the case, I would say that the number one thing that has changed from that time is the destruction of God and family and in the home.
Yeah.
If God is positive and the devil is negative, right? If it's yin and yang, if you will, right? Light to dark. Why do you want the other one?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, why do you want to live that life of misery, of devoidance, of emptiness, when you could have a life of fullness? But then you get into structure, and you get into indoctrination, you get into structured religion, and I think that's for some people, but it's not for me. But I definitely live with God within my mind and my heart. And that goes back to the near-death experiences. We just made a full circle here, in the sense of what these people were experiencing, right? Is they experienced not the true God or truth. They experienced what they believed to be the truth, whether it was Buddha, Odin, Jesus, Allah. That's what they experienced in these near-death experiences. And not one of them holds the blanket of truth, for those experiences were true unto them. Yep.
Right?
All right, we are going to take open lines, but fuck, we're out of time. How about this? We're gonna give you guys. We're gonna do 15 minutes. We're gonna go ahead and do a little extra time. We're planning on going to Fringe After Dark in about 30 minutes. This will bump it up. However, over time we go, that's gonna bump up Fringe After Dark. I'll make the announcement of when we're gonna go on the Fringe After Dark afterwards. For those interested in Fringe After Dark, it's a Zoom call that gets broadcast on YouTube. You can watch on YouTube, or you can join in the Zoom with a subscription. And it's all the information that is in the Social Red Pill. You can join the Social Red Pill. And we typically have this type of conversation. We'll talk about a lot of other things, but you guys are all more than welcome to join. If you guys want to give us a call and ask a few questions, I know a few of you guys want to probably talk to Jason, feel free to go ahead and give us a call. The numbers are listed below. You can go 253-215-8782. 253-215-8782. And what you need to do is you need to put in the Zoom code in order to get in this. And so it's going to ask for a meeting ID and a passcode. And so Vince will put the one number out and the meeting ID and passcode in the chat. If you guys want to call in, I recommend that you do not come on video, but you just come in on audio. And what I'll do is I'll pin Jay and myself. And I'll pin Jay and myself. And what I'm going to do is real quick, I'm just going to transition over to a blank screen. And you guys will probably see my mug sitting right here for a minute. Then we're going to go just like that. Yep, there we go. Now we'll transition back. All right, cool. So if you guys want to go ahead and give us a call, please do. And we can take it from there. We're just talking about life. We're talking about everything about life. And so there's the numbers right there, and then you got to put in those passcodes. And to that one person that just came in, no, you're not welcome in here. And he knows who he is.
I just saw that.
Yep. All right, we got a call. Let me go to my Zoom and see if we can do this correctly. All right, we got a call. As long as it's not the one person I saw there. If it is, we're just going to immediately delete him, as I don't want to talk to that person. But let's go ahead and bring this person in. All right, caller, what's up? How we doing?
Hi, hello.
Who is this?
A New Jersey Patriot over here reporting for duty, Joshua and Jason.
Very cool, very cool. How we doing tonight?
We're doing good. I am reporting from the battleground. I want to talk to you about my experience with people because I work in a supermarket here in New Jersey.
Sure. What's your experience with people?
Yes, I work at Aldi's, which is a supermarket that sends discount prices, and I have to remind people that what Biden is doing with the prices going up is on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Every day, complaints. People are waking up. I'm telling them this is on purpose. You see the gas? We're not gonna make it till November. Stock up. It's terrible.
I 100% agree. And yeah, I mean it's a very chaotic and crazy time, but you're right, people are waking up. And that's the beautiful thing with what's happening in this world is that people are waking up, and it's almost as if this collective consciousness is coming together and unifying the people.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. And a week ago, I had a confrontation with that crazy liberal. One thing is to see them on the TV and on Twitter. It is a different one when they are in your face. George, Jason, this is true. She said, I'd rather pay $50 per gallon than having Trump on the administration again. And then I said, I lift my fist in the air, something to cover me. And I said, God bless Trump. And I yelled in the store, God bless Trump. She went batshit crazy. And my boss, she threw her out of the store.
Good.
Oh my goodness. Well, I appreciate your call and thank you for being a patriot and a listener, and I appreciate you checking in with us.
Thank you. Kisses to Beans. I love him too.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
All right, let's go.
She said kisses to who?
Kisses to you guys. Awesome.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right, let's go. I believe this is Canada. So I have a feeling that this is going to be someone that you'll recognize the name. All right, let's jump him in. What's up, caller? How we doing?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can. Is this Climb BMX?
Yeah, you nailed it.
What's up, Climb? How we doing?
Well, I'm doing great. I got notes this time.
Oh God, here we go.
So, I'm this is a question that I've been posing to people, especially recently. In light of like Dan Bongino saying, look, all rules are off the table.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And Sun Tzu, The Art of War. When your enemy drops its weapon, pick it up and use it against them. Now, we've been lied to forever, right? Can we agree on that?
Agreed.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and I think the truth will set us free. There, is that better?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, great. So, look, I've got a graduated questions for you and the audience and myself as well. These are questions that only the individual can answer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you believe in God?
Mm-hmm.
Jason, good to see you. Thank you.
You know, you're a mystery person. Like I would say, if there was any viewer out there that used to boggle my mind if he was a man or a woman, would have been Climb BMX, because I didn't know if you were a guy or a girl. And so, I as much as we were talking about Pat tonight, I think you're our Pat, because I really never knew. I was always curious. I'd be like,
because Climb BMX is gender neutral. The name is gender neutral.
Yeah, it's gender neutral. But you know, I've never met him. I've never talked to him.
That's part of the mystique. That's part of the mystique.
Yeah.
Now, I really appreciated listening to your family, young family stories. That was hilarious. And The World According to Garp, it struck me as well.
Did it really?
So I'll leave it. Yeah, it did. Yeah, for sure. Now, the question, just a couple of graduated questions here is, now, for everyone, would you lie? Most people, no, the truth will set us free, right? And I agree with that, you know. But does the truth work on evildoers? Okay, so the graduated questions here. Would you lie to maintain and uphold your individual rights and freedoms? So you go ahead and answer if you want to, because I've got some more questions. What do you think? Would you?
Josh?
Go ahead, Jay. Go ahead and go first.
So the first question was, would you lie to?
Yeah, just in general.
In general.
Yeah, sorry.
So
would
the
you
answer
lie
to
to
that would be
maintain?
Yes, I think everybody lies at some point, or at least embellishes the truth. Right? I will tell you that
Do you
the stories
think
we
I'm
tell
fat?
about our kids are not. But what's that?
Yeah. Do you think I'm fat? You know, are you going to lie about that? So now, would you lie to protect your family?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
I would. I've got a granddaughter. I would.
Mm-hmm.
And again, Dan Bongino, all rules are off the table. Sun Tzu, when the enemy drops its weapon, we've been lied to for like forever, right?
Mm-hmm. Literally. I don't know how old you are, but what I will say is that when Josh red-pilled me, you know, I mean, I don't know. We were always like taught never to trust the government, that the government was always out to take you, or, you know, and as progressively we've got older, I think we've always had that discern, like, never trust the government. So, but I think there truly people really do trust the government. And, you know, you had asked the question, would I lie to keep my amendments or my constitutional rights? And the answer to that question is no, because they're my God-given rights. There's no reason to lie about it because they're my God-given rights, right? I don't need to lie, right?
What it in the face of evildoers?
Mm-hmm.
No.
You can add that addendum, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I wouldn't. You know, if it came down to a gun up against my head to succumb to this administration or to succumb to communism or socialism, I would not lie and say I succumbed to it. Nope. I don't agree with it. Take me out. I would rather be dead than not be free. You know?
Yeah, totally. And people have done that in history while they get their heads chopped off saying, I love God, right?
Mm-hmm. They hold on to their convictions. And
that's
right
to the bitter end.
Yeah, and right to the bitter end. And I think that those people, they hold on to those convictions because they understand that the martyr scenario is playing out and that they're going to the bitter end. Although I think that there are certain scenarios, like if a Gestapo police force, task force is arranged, and let's say they start going door to door and asking questions to American citizens, like the Census Bureau, and they come up to my door and they say, Mr. Reed, we have to ask you a few questions. I'm going to say no. And they're going to say, do you have any guns in the house? I'm going to say no. I lost them all in a boating accident. And I will say no. I will lie on certain extents. I will lie on certain things that I know where if the information gets out, it will affect the security of my children, my life, my friends, my family, to where I can keep a secret if people's lives are on the line. If people will die because of the information that I know or that I release, or that if the information that I know can be utilized to defeat so-called enemy, or be utilized in the sense of a defense against a so-called enemy, I will definitely lie to retain whatever that strategy or information is.
And to support that, would you lie to protect the innocent from evildoers or wrongdoers? And let's just, the example, Anne Frank. You know, how many people in Belgium, Luxembourg, France, Spain, Germany lied to the Gestapo and said, no Jews here. Don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely I would.
So I think I would lie to save anybody but myself, right? I think that's fair to say. I would do everything I could.
Well
to
said,
save
Jason.
innocent children. Yeah.
Wow. Well said.
Well, and I have a difference of opinion, and I'm not a narcissist when I say this, and please understand that I've gone through the mental scenario in my head of this before multiple times. And the question that I always arise in the sense of the scenario Jason just brought about is if it's just my life on the line and I can lie and save my life or tell the truth and become a martyr, I look at it in this sense. Is there any more good that I can do in the world if I'm alive? Is there any more people I can wake up in the world that potentially have the ability to win this war or become an asset to this war? Are there people in this world that will become effective because of me staying around? Is there things left for me to do in this world to bring a benefit to the world? That's what goes through my mind every time that I come to that scenario. And I look at it in the sense that if I'm dead, I'm useless to anything that's happening here.
You're not.
Well,
You'd be a martyr.
Can I give you an example of how we've been lied to?
Sure, go ahead.
This is what we're up against, people. Like 100 years ago, Admiral Stajny in the Red Army was prosecuted for for refusing to scuttle the entire Baltic fleet. Okay, he refused to do it. So prosecutor Krylenko in Gulag Archipelago 100 years ago says, quote, executions have been abolished, but Stajny is not being executed. He's being shot. That's an end quote. Okay, that's volume 1, page 435. He's not being executed. He's being shot. You know, they're lying to us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is not new. Like, this is what we're up against.
So, Client BX, I give you a prime example of this. I was watching a documentary on Teddy Roosevelt. So Teddy Roosevelt's, he's storming up the political channels, and you know he's really rustling feathers. And Woodrow Wilson becomes, and they basically put Teddy Roosevelt in with Woodrow Wilson. And Woodrow Wilson basically shelves Teddy Roosevelt, basically ships him off, and just is like, he has no, basically no voice. And then all of a sudden, Woodrow Wilson is assassinated, right? In Buffalo, no less. In Buffalo.
Wilson wasn't assassinated. That was Garfield.
was it Garfield and Woodrow?
Wilson came after Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt was vice president to Garfield. Garfield was assassinated. Or not Garfield, Taft.
Taft. Okay, sorry. It was Taft. So Taft is assassinated, and then Teddy gets in, and then Teddy's like, all fucking roar. And then Teddy gets shot, right? So to me, all of a sudden, like with all the things happening in the world, I'm like, that's an eye for an eye. Taft was shot because he ruffled feathers and quieted Teddy. And Teddy got shot for Taft getting shot. That's the way I see it.
Well, and we figured this out a while back when we looked at this, is this was the pre-organization of the Federal Reserve. And that the Roosevelts and the American dynasties, the American corporatists, were completely against a centralized bank in the United States. They were Americans. They were royal bloodlines in the Americas. They did not want European bankers and central banks to come in and take control of the country. And Taft was one who got elected and started basically reorganize everything to modern day liberalism. And the people who got him elected basically said, no, you're not going to do that. They eliminated him. And we know this because, and this is a piece of historical context that people can look into. Teddy Roosevelt was the vice president after Taft died. Okay. Roosevelt was elected president by procession, right? Contingency of government. Mm-hmm. Well, one of his buddies who just happened to be John Jacob Astor, okay, one of the financiers in the country, sent him a letter congratulating him on being president. Now, the funny thing is the letter arrived the next day after Taft was killed. Now, this is in the 1800s. We don't have planes flying mail across the country. We don't have buses or trucks driving mail from New York to D.C.
Teddy was actually in the Midwest. He was up in the mountains.
That's right. Teddy was in the Midwest. He was in Colorado. Yep. And so this letter went from New York to Colorado in less than one day. Or John Jacob Astor sent it a week before. If he sent it a week before, that means that he knew Taft was going to be assassinated. And then, soon after this, obviously Teddy takes a bullet, but Teddy goes up for re-election. Or Teddy was not going to go up for re-election because they were bringing in, I forgot who it was. I think it was one of these other guys. And or maybe it was Garfield and Taft was coming in. I think Taft was coming in. Either way. But what happened is Teddy went on a sabbatical to Africa and throughout the world. Yeah. And he learns that basically what they're doing is they're rigging the election. And he comes back, enters the election. I think it was under like the Bull Party or something like this. Mm-hmm. And they basically cut him out. And they enter another third-party candidate. And this is when Woodrow Wilson comes in. And in the first year in office, on December 24th, 1913, they passed the Federal Reserve Act. And 2 months, or what is it, 3 or 4 months before this, John Jacob Astor died on that sinking of the Titanic.
Yep.
And so they eliminated these people, got them out of the way, and it's just what's happening right now. But you're right, Climb, if you're still there.
But that's the line, yeah.
Yeah.
But this is the line of the history. It should have just been, this was, but, obviously the bad guys won. In my eyes, the bad guys won, and the bad guys wrote the history. Mm-hmm. And so it was just, somebody shot Teddy. Oh, somebody shot Garfield. Or
somebody shot Reagan.
Yeah. Oh, no, these are all doings, in my opinion. And
you guys, thanks so much. I'll let you get on. Awesome. And just with that, I got I'd never heard of Mike Barra before, cool. And I saw him on your program like 6 weeks ago or something like that. Got 2 of his books, and the one Ancient Aliens and JFK, 2 subjects I really hadn't dipped too much into, but boom, excellent books.
Very
so
cool.
Thanks for leading me that way. And you've answered all my questions. Both of you have answered all my questions. Thanks to the listeners.
Yeah.
Everyone out there. Roxy, Patriot Pisces, RPG, all of you. I love you, everyone. I wish I was available all the time, but I'm working this afternoon shift, so I miss most of your stuff.
No worries, my friend. Well, you take care, and we look forward to hearing from you again. Thanks,
Jason. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks.
Take care, Clem.
Bye now.
Bye. All right. Guys. So I'm going to give you guys 30 minutes to head over to Fringe After Dark. So 45 after the hour, 15-2. We're going to be in Fringe After Dark. You guys know the links are all sent out there. We'll post a YouTube link on the social Red Pill. I hope you guys had a great show. Thank you for all the calls. Thank you for the great conversation. Thank you, Jay, for coming in and joining us tonight. You guys all have a great night. Jay, any last words?
No, I just appreciate all the love and the comments. It's really appreciated.
Awesome.
Teary-eyed.
I know. All right, you guys have a great night. We'll see you guys later.